Hi, I'm Ashish and I'm from India. And I've been working on this project called Geolocation based public information system. We have named it Qbila. Qbila means tribe. So we are trying to build a global tribe out of the globe for the global village. So I think, uh, so how did it all started for me? I think this is the most difficult part for me to say, because it all started when I was living in Delhi, living in Delhi, two street across the place where the rape incident of 16th December 2012 happened. Apart from all the means, it was the most disturbing experience that I had, despite I was not related to the person. It was because she represented the Indian dream. Like all of us are coming from humble backgrounds, giving all our effort to see a day when it all work out well for us and for our families. But uh, adding to that, the most one more difficult situation that the one more point that I find it difficult to handle with was, I came to know about that thing that happened just two streets across my place from a national news channel, and there was a huge chance that no one ever came to know about this. So I started working on a system where people can add their issues and place them on the map and talk to the government somehow that okay, we need to solve this. But after some Google search and about the related systems that existed like that, I realized that no one likes a complainer, and uh, the expected traction was not possible because uh, one, that we needed governments to listen to us, and second, if my complaints are not being met, I'm not going to come over it the next time and vote for any other issue. So incidentally, I started managing a Facebook page, and I came to know that marketing is a difficult task. It has its own inherent costs, and uh, then it came to me somehow that maybe this is the problem with the government as well. So uh, this is where I started working on this system. So government organizations make policies and implement them through government departments, but government departments need to communicate with citizens to make it to implement those policies effectively. So the present options with the government departments is traditional media, which is costly because of limited bandwidth. It's unidirectional, and it's targeted for the masses. The information they carry is made for the masses, but not for the personal for a single individual's personal needs. On the other hand, the social media can solve this problem, but there, even 5 seconds of the attention is a commodity, and there is a huge competition going on to match to get that. So the ideal solution in my view was, if we can develop a social system based on web and mobile and IVRS that can get the individuals the information that they need, and it can be helpful for them. So how to design such a system, and what should be the target of it? Uh, it should be, in my view, it should be balance between knowledge and action. If I know something, I should be able to do something about it. And for that, we started with some fundamentals, like how to design such a system. So the thing about governments is, the governments are married to a locations. Like American government is serving a certain geography, and Indian government is serving a certain geography. And it's not just that the governments are divided into states and then into municipalities. So if we know that the location and if we know the location, we can know the policies that are applicable to the location and the officials who are serving to implement those policies. Second, the personal data points apply to the applicable policies. Like a farmer's needs are different from a IT professional's needs. So the entire data that is generated from government's information can be filtered based on the personal needs of the individual. So the major part of the system is the government's database. We will work on including the entire government hierarchy, the places the government organizations are serving, and the government officials database to make a picture like who is doing what and where they are doing it. So this is the screenshot of the first prototype that we have developed. In this, if you follow a location, you get the entire hierarchies information, government hierarchies, policies, implementation information on your mobile phone as an information feed. You can change the location, and based on that, the feed will change and the information will change accordingly. The personalized information, as I said, every individual's needs are different, and based on that, the organizations who are creating the information are different. So the actionable info, the information that we will see on such a on the system is actionable. By actionable, I mean it's not only sharing the information, but also the actions that should be done after it. For example, whenever like health department is giving an advertisement for dengue, it's a big disease there in India. So they need the citizens to get their places sprayed or follow a certain health related precautions. So these are the two possible actions. So if we supplement the information with these actions, and those actions can be done on the information system of the government or on the information systems of ours, and those how the citizens are interacting with that can be tracked by the government to understand how to communicate better with the government with the citizens. So also next thing, that the local issues can also be dealt in a different way. Since it was the original problem, I realized there is a better way to do this. So the method is that before creating a new issue, we will assign them a certain number of votes, and they have to exhaust all their votes before they can create a new issue. So in this way, we will know that for a certain time limit, these are the top priorities issues of the entire society, and those priority issues can be followed through after the time intervals, and it will make sure that the top issues of the community are met with the actions. So the system will be extensible, meaning that whatever documents we are parsing, working on, will be open to the society for information driven journalism. And also we will develop in ways of open API, so that more apps can be developed on our system. So what are the benefits? The citizens will know what they need to know. I mean, there is no point knowing everything. So if something is working for me, and I know from a individual perspective what is government doing about me, so at the bigger level, if everyone knows what is happening for them, and everyone knows what is government doing for everyone, so in that case, so this will eventually help the democracy to prosper, because democracy in the end, it's a governance method of choice, and better choice are better informed. So if I am better informed about what possibilities can be, I'll choose better ones. A low cost information sharing system, like many of you might have mobile applications and mobile applications of local police departments, traffic police, or all that. So this is a trend all across the world, even in India. The majority of cost from my software development experience, I can say the majority of cost is not going to the development of the product, because for developing a software product is different from developing a bridge. In bridge, every brick has a cost, while in case of software, I can copy same code and develop a different system from the scratch. So the production cost is low, while maintenance cost is high, and majority of that cost goes into the user experience. And apart from that, for the e-commerce business, I can say that 70% of the cost is marketing. So if there is a single application that can enable government organizations to interact with the people, the cost for the government to interact with the people will go dramatically down. Persistent and action-oriented communication, since the every information is added on with the what actions should or can the citizen take. This will enable that the connection is persistent, the government is giving relevant information, and the citizens are able to act in accordance to the situation. Accountability and transparency. Since we know what policies are being implemented, who is implementing them, so if there is some some lack of performance in some aspect of the implementation, we know who is not doing his job properly. So this is one more point. And greater participation in local democracy. I read somewhere, I don't remember, that citizens of my age are not participating in the local democracy as much as they are participating in the national level democracy. So if I am connected with the issues related to me and where I am living, it gives a perspective that the government is not just what's happening in the center or what the media is showing me. So it will enable me to have a greater participation in the local democracies. And thank you.
I think that this type of thing, generically, is tremendously important. And in fact, this is what the last UN General Assembly meeting was all about. Sustainable development goals, you can't do what you can't measure. It's also about open data, so you need to have data about all these things that we care about. You need to have open data to be able to have participation. I think there's also an attitude that you want to have participation from all parts of society in terms of their own views and their own story. And so that brings me to, so again, let me just say, this is great. This is what we should be doing. Now I'm going to pick at it, okay? Sorry. In reading through the paper, it sounds a little bit like a 1990s ERP system. These are these enterprise systems. Because they're very structured to particular purposes. And the Indian government is like that. They have very particular processes and responsibilities and hierarchies, which the document makes very clear. And as a consequence, they have silos and inefficiencies and rigidity, which is why people don't use ERPs anymore. They're trying to get rid of them as much as possible, because that sort of stuff, that attitude, fosters these because it's relatively inflexible. Instead, what people are trying to create is an open data platform. You can just sort of think of it as something where it's just a database. People can write into it. People can read out of it. It has live feeds so that a company or somebody else can just see what's happening at any one moment. And obviously, it has to have user authentication and permissions, because not everybody can see everything. But what ends up happening when you build systems like this is people do unexpected things. They come up with a Waze system for doing the traffic. They come up with better ways of distributing water. Things that the government might do, but doesn't have the time, energy, maybe creativity to do it. So you open up civil society to being able to be a collaborator. And it's a very different way of structuring things. So for instance, in that sort of thing, you wouldn't have any advertising cost. It's a resource that people should run to make use of, and they'll do the advertising. And they'll compete, and the one that's good, is going to get more customers and so forth. Along with this, though, and this is also true of the Sustainable Development Goals, and this sort of mantra, you can't manage what you don't measure. Most people, when they say data, mean the sort of things you see in spreadsheets, okay? But those are actually sneaky, nasty things, because what they are is they're somebody's idea of the answers to particular questions. They may label it happiness or something like that, or quality of life, but actually what they've done is done some particular computation which you typically can't see. Maybe you see the Excel formula, but you can't see the items that went into the Excel formula and how they were calculated. So what they're doing is they're saying, well, here's my mindset about it, and you have to accept it because you can't see what I actually did. Okay? You're not allowing people to tell stories with the data. That's the sort of key function, is people should be able to look at relatively raw data and tell stories. A good way to imagine that is maps. Like, for instance, when I was in India, we had went into a village, and we had the kids map where all the wells were, right? And interestingly, of course, the wells were not distributed evenly throughout the village. They tended to be on one side of the village versus another. You can guess which side that was, right? Maps tell stories that aren't intended, whereas Excel spreadsheets, things that are structured data, tell somebody's view on the matter. So you want to have it open in that sense, too. A thing that I didn't see much in the document, and I'm not saying that this is your fault. I understand you have a lot of constraints in trying to sell this to the government, but privacy and security are far more important and delicate issues than people realized even a few years ago. Ownership of data. I can take lots of different data sets and tell lots of things about you that you would never guess, okay? That's the sort of privacy thing. How do people maintain their privacy with these sorts of systems? Similarly, security. We live in a world that has exponentially increasing cybersecurity attacks. And the reason is that it's really cheap to attack a lot of times, and all you have to do is succeed once, whereas the defender has to defend everything against millions of attacks. If they lose even once, they lose. Incredibly asymmetric. So you need to design these things in from the ground up. And so there's a new generation of systems like this for governments, for large organizations, that take these things much more seriously than we ever had in the past. And that's why you hear about all these identity theft things, is people thought that you could build a little moat around the data and that would be okay. And it turns out that's not true, right? Because the guy inside the moat is often the one that walks off with the data. And again, this asymmetry. So there are many things to do. There are ways of thinking about this that are, I think, really important. The final thing is, in data like this, there's a sense of ownership that's implied. So whose data is this? And the standard answer from any sort of government is, it's our data. It's government's data, right? But no, actually, it's data about you. You ought to have something to say about it. And there is a sense, and it's not just a sense, but I think it's a reality, that since the Magna Carta in the West, we fought for 800 years to control of our bodies and our sort of immediate surroundings. And it's not complete. But in the digital world, our digital identity is something we don't even know where it is. Other people own it. And we have to do a similar sort of process as happened with the Magna Carta and all that sort of stuff, where we take back our digital identity, where you should be able to know what your digital footprint is, and you should be able to control it to some degree. There's going to be taxes. There's going to be other things. You have to deal with other people. But I think it's that fundamental of an issue. And I would like to see systems designed with that. It's fundamentally an issue of power. who is in control? Does the government get to tell you everything, whether you want to know or not? Can you never hide from the government or anybody with access to it? Or do you have the right to be an independent citizen? And that's the type of thing that's actually at risk here, or at issue. Okay?